Right. Welcome, everybody. This is Donna Penna from Worldwide Academy Training Services, and this is Thurston Gill Jr., and he is our lead instructor at Worldwide Academy. You can find out more about us. We are a nonprofit organization. We will post our links below. Let me get that out. Link to our website and our Facebook page, and you can find more about what we do. We are doing a series of recordings talking about topics that fall under the headings of emergency preparedness, safety and security, and whatever else we feel so inclined to talk to you about. And I just let's get a few housekeeping things out of the way. We are very thankful for those of you, very grateful for those of you who have given us, hit the like button, the thumbs up button, and who have shared or subscribed. So that helps us to get pushed up higher in the feed and in the algorithms and be able to reach more people. So don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe, and share, please. And if you have ideas of questions, things that you want us to talk about, please feel free to contact us. Our email is also going to be down below. So, Thurston, how you doing today?
Doing okay.
Right.
Like everybody, despite the circumstances we're all is well.
Yes. Right, that's right. Oh my goodness. Okay, so tonight we are going to talk about, this is our topic, avoiding a false sense of safety and security. So I'm really curious to hear what you have to say about this. I kind of have some idea, but I'm sure I don't have much of a clue, because you always come and bring so much value to these discussions. And by the way, everybody, make sure you have your notebook and pen available, because the last recording that we did, I took a boatload of notes, and I think you're probably going to be able to take some good notes tonight too. So, all right, Thurston, so start us off here. Avoiding a false sense of safety and security. What are we going to talk about? What is this all about?
Well, actually, what it's about is this mindset that, from a training and development standpoint, it's difficult to overcome in some cases with some people. And to explain it, I'll go about describing a parable about the tortoise. So for instance, the typical tortoise basically has a safety and security plan, strategy, and tactic that's pretty much geared to its environment or its habitat, right? Something happens, they experience some type of threat. Basically, their go-to is they retract into their shell, and their shell is pretty much adequate to protect them against most threats, right? Well, what if that tortoise were to decide to cross a busy highway or a busy road during rush hour on a school day? Now that tortoise is out of its environment, its habitat. Therefore, the safety and security measures that they're used to operating, or their game plan they usually operate in, which they don't really have to think about, they naturally and instinctively do, has no degree of effectiveness against tons of kinetic energy rolling across the highway or a road.
Way to put it.
Okay, exactly. So let's look at the problem here. Their tactic or their strategy for crossing that road would pretty much consist of a sense of, and every animal does have a sense of security awareness, but their security awareness has been limited to just their habitat. For the most part, most tortoises don't know what's involved in going across a busy highway or busy road. And the ones that do know the experience, I'm sure by the grace of God, they survived to be able to relate the experience to any other tortoises. Okay. But typically, it is said that a tortoise lifespan is from 80 to 150 years. So that's a long time.
Wow.
And I would venture to say that most tortoises don't know what it's like to cross a highway, especially a busy one.
Yeah.
During rush hour,
Yeah.
school day. So let's look at the things we want to avoid, because we don't want to be like the tortoise. We don't want to be venturing on a path where we just enter in with no knowledge, no planning, no familiarity, going outside of or being forced to go outside of our comfort zone to have to deal with something with our limited experience with the safety and security measures that work in our natural habitat, but probably not so effective in outside of it. Okay. First and foremost, the tortoise's sense of security awareness. I think that most tortoises, when they cross a busy highway or a busy road, have no clue as to the danger that they put themselves in.
Apparently,
they are absolutely clueless.
Apparently, neither do the deer lately. I've been seeing so many of them on the side.
Yeah. Yes. So for the most part, they're clueless. And let's say that one crosses and it suddenly becomes aware and decides that their go-to plan to retract into their shell is going to be sufficient enough to protect them. Well, it doesn't. And not only doesn't it work, but they find out it doesn't work after it fails, right? And to be honest with you, I don't think they're even conscious enough to find out it doesn't work.
Yeah.
But not only that, but that was their one protective strategy. It was one and done. They have no fallback, no backup, no different options. It's just retracting the shell because it worked in the past, right? In their previous years, in their natural habitat, whenever there's a threat that came by, they retracted in their shell and they just waited there until the coast was clear and they came out and went about their business as normal. So the first thing is their sense of awareness. They have no sense of awareness. They really had no clue as to what they were getting into. And the second is that their tactic or their strategy for surviving a threat in this particular environment was one, retracting the shell, wait until it was safe to go out and come back out. The other thing is that understanding the failures of the tortoise, we can learn to avoid some of the same problems. I've talked about this many times before. I've done it in my Facebook posts, and also I've mentioned it in a number of different workshops that I've had the pleasure of sharing at, is that there are many of us that put a lot of time and effort and money into the preparation part of planning for potential hazards, disasters, man-made or natural, they've done a lot of work. And based upon their experience, based upon their knowledge, and unfortunately, many of them fall into the category of experience being very little, knowledge being very little. They have this false sense of security that they'll be okay if the poop hits the fan.
Yeah.
And they pretty much convince themselves of that because there's something about the sense of security and power when you have a storage area full of food for the next 5 months. You put a lot of effort in it. This is your baby.
Mm-hmm.
You
got the stuff.
Yes, I got my stuff.
Got the stuff. I got the tools. I got my equipment.
Yes,
exactly.
Good. Exactly. Yeah, you can't compete against that sense of accomplishment. Because along with that sense of accomplishment is a sense of safety and security, right? Then you have the guys and gals that have the room full of ammo that they got wholesale, different types of weapon systems. And again, they have an arsenal that is capable of taking over a small country. And that gives them a sense of.
And by the way, we're not advocating for this. I just want to make sure be okay. And
Yes, exactly.
Once this gets out.
Yes, but there are people that have that. That's their sense of. They have the sense of security. And it's false. Anybody that has a sense of security simply because they have a firearm is a train wreck waiting to happen. There's a lot more to come with this.
Right.
We have to go back to the basics. We have to develop a security awareness, and that is based upon exposing ourselves to different experiences or training opportunities, training activities, whether it be going on, doing workshops, whatever. It can't be zombie movies, okay, or disaster movies.
Yeah.
I will say this, a good help is reading about other people's experiences surviving a disaster, reading about individuals that survived civil conflicts in different countries, people that had harrowing experiences where they had to learn quickly to adapt to the changing conditions around them in order to survive.
Right.
Those things are great. Those are great. Next to going through these experiences yourself, reading through or seeing through the eyes of others that have lived it, that have done it, is very valuable. Very valuable. And then we can have an idea of what to prepare for. And so unlike the tortoise going headlong into a busy highway, I know, first of all, that that's a highway. And on highways, they have these machines that are driven by these individuals, these creatures called human beings that drive real fast and will crush me if I'm in their path. We have to have that type of awareness and not be like the tortoise. In addition to that, we cannot, just because a particular strategy or particular tactic or technique worked last time in a given situation, that can't be our only go-to.
Right.
Okay, we have to have a toolbox full of tools not a toolbox with just a hammer and just nails, or a hammer and just a screwdriver. And then we kind of make, you know how we do, we try to make an entire toolbox out of a hammer, nail, and pliers.
Right.
Or a hammer, screwdriver, and pliers.
Yeah.
And I don't know about anybody else, but until I learned the value in buying particular tools for specific jobs, I messed up a lot of stuff trying to make things work.
Right.
Now, in a pinch, if you have no choice, of course, you try to make work what you have. I'm not saying that you don't, but what I'm saying is that given the opportunity to prepare, to get ready, to strategize and plan, we need to take those opportunities to do just that. And it'll save us a lot of time, money, and effort. And it may even save our lives of somebody else, the lives of somebody else.
Yeah. I've had plenty of opportunities with that hammer nail thing and yeah, that's a great analogy or story. So many people just, and I think so many people get to a certain place, like you said, okay, I've got my food. I got enough food, I think, for however many days I'm supposed to have it, months. I've got my water. I got my tools over here, and now I'm good.
Yep.
And they get to a certain place.
Yes.
And then
yes,
they're good.
yes.
And then it all stops. It's like, well, like you said, what about the training? What about the practice? What about the different scenarios?
Yeah.
What if,
yes,
like, just because you have this stuff now doesn't mean that now you can go, okay, I'm good, I'm ready, let's go, bring on the,
bring on the apocalypse.
Yeah.
Yes. And anybody that finds himself in that place, beware.
Yeah.
Because I guarantee you have a blind side. And you may not be aware of the blind side, but I guarantee you have a blind side. And you'll find out, unfortunately, I pray that you don't find out the hard way of where it is. Sometimes it takes somebody outside of your habitat to evaluate what you have, to evaluate what measures you've taken to protect yourself and your family, and to assess independent assessment of, is this going to work? Does this make sense? And I'm not talking about just sharing that information with everybody, because we also have to be concerned about everybody knowing our business. That's another point I want to bring up on the side, but I want us to have it in the back of our minds, is that the person you know today in a normal, civil, non-provocative environment is a totally different human being when they become desperate. Totally different.
Exactly.
And you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you shared all of your business to someone who has not earned that level of trust to be able to betray that trust, especially
that is such
safety of your family.
That's such a good thing to keep in mind. I don't know that I know that we don't even with our close family or friends haven't seen the reaction or responses in different situations, especially where safety and security comes into play, or emergency preparedness kinds of things. But how much more an acquaintance or other people, like I posted I don't know if you saw it today. I posted a pretty interesting article today on in our emergency preparedness group page on Facebook about people who wanted to totally get off grid and all that's involved in that. I'll tell you what, you have to be a certain kind of person to totally get lost and not like you're just to disappear.
Yeah.
But as I was reading through that, like this is kind of reminding me of because they would say, okay, well, if you're going to you'd have to be careful, you have this new identity, or you don't, you're trying to get away, get off grid. And then you have to be careful who you're talking to and what you're telling them. And even you have to come up with this whole new story, whatever. So it was making me think, and this kind of, relates to it in a little bit, not totally, but I really like that the person today is totally a different person when they become desperate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's to give an example, it's really not, it's the same but different. I'm really astounded how people act when a family member or friend is deceased and there's money involved.
Oh yeah.
It doesn't even have to be money, just property.
A big one.
Yes.
The
same people that and some of us probably won't be surprised at some of our some people, but others you might be. Mm-hmm. It just creates a different dynamic where it pulls back the curtain so that the heart of an individual is actually shown. It's not like they just became that way. No, this is how they always been, mm-hmm. but they really had not an opportunity mm-hmm. To express it.
Right.
We're going to find out, and I know we're deviating a little bit from the false sense of security, but I think it also can play into it because we'll have neighbors. Oh yeah, John, I've known him for years. He wouldn't harm a fly. He's great. Well, and please forgive me. I just don't want to make us suspicious of everybody either. I want us to take the information that we learn and use wisdom and not act crazy, okay? And not act crazy and assume everybody's a demon in disguise, because some people are going to be wary of certain individuals because the way that they think they are. They think, oh, we got to avoid that guy because something's about him I don't like. He may be the very one that saved your life. Mm. While the person that you thought was okay was a sadistic, child killer, molester. But see, yeah. But see, the laws and authorities in place is enough to keep him or her at bay. But once those laws and powers of authority disappear or minimized, now they can express who they really are.
That's really good to keep in mind, especially for those times.
Yes, exactly.
When it is lawless, completely
yes.
lawless. And that's when you're going to really see.
Yes. Yes. And it's, I mean, and it could be as simple as just greed, or you have a person that's desperate to want to make sure their kids are fed, but will take your life and what you have to make sure their children are fed. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with that? How do you prepare for that? People say, oh, I have a garden and I'm going to protect it. That's my food for my family and the people that I take care of. And so I have individuals that are armed, my community is armed. We're going to protect our garden, our crop. And I say, that's great. I understand. I truly understand that. But suppose the individuals that are raiding your garden or your crop are children.
Mm.
Whether they decided to on their own to just go to fend for themselves, to find something to eat because their bellies are empty, or evil trifling people recruited these kids and forced them to go to that garden because they suspected you're not going to hurt them,
right,
because they're kids.
right. Oh,
Again, we can't have a sense of false safety and security, and we will have that if we don't understand the fact that we're walking across a busy highway. We may be forced to walk across a busy highway, and we need to know what's involved in crossing that highway. We need to know what cars are. We need to know what trucks are. We need to know what time of the day is best to cross. And these things that these tortoises don't think of, they're not aware of, they're not conscious of, but that's just driven by raw instinct to go from point A to point B.
mm-hmm.
We can't be driven by the same instinct. We have to use reason, prayer and insight, discretion, discernment.
Yeah, you have to have it all.
Yes.
So how, I mean, I think you said it there. You have to have it all, or, most of it.
Well, it comes, going back, it comes by experience. It's the more experiences you have,
Yeah.
the more the opportunities these skills are developed.
Okay. Right. Right. So, all right, let's say, where do I start? I'm a person who, I'm feeling overwhelmed, Thurston. I don't know, I don't know, when I go out, I'm thinking of other things. And I don't want to become one of those people that is paranoid and what do I start? Like what do I do?
And I can understand, as I said before, I can relate to all of those feelings. But I think that for those who have a prayer discipline, that's the first place you start.
Mm-hmm.
The other is that by speaking to people that have had some life experience in the things we're planning for helps tremendously. But you have to be careful too, because we assume people are knowledgeable because of the type of job they have. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I'll give an excellent example. I was a police officer, so I can speak to this, and I also am in security and have been in security for most of my adult life. People assume that police officers are knowledgeable when it comes to security. And that's not necessarily the case, because police officers are not trained in security. They're trained in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Two entirely different animals. Now, there are some police officers who do have a background in security education or security experience, because they've taken courses related to security as opposed to just law enforcement or criminal justice courses. But just because an individual is a police officer does not mean that they know anything about security. They might know very little. You may know more than they do. So that's an assumption that is often made.
Mm-hmm.
I remember going to a community meeting years ago, and it was myself from representing the security aspect. This community group had invited us in, myself and a community outreach police officer for the township to come out to share some ideas on how to protect their community against what was going on in the community at the time. And I really don't remember how I was invited into that, but I thought that basically the police officer was going to talk about the law enforcement end and stay in that lane, and I would talk about the security end and stay in my lane. And someone brought up the idea, what about a dog? Can I, is it good to have a dog to help to provide protection for my home and my property? And I told them right away, I said, yes, but there are conditions, yes and no.
Yeah.
There has to be, first and foremost, there has to be a commitment to taking care of the animal, which is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But the police officer chimed in and said that it was not a good idea. And he said it wasn't a good idea. He felt that people have a false sense of security with having dogs for protection or for guarding their property, because there was an incident that occurred where this special response team or SWAT team from this particular county that made a dynamic entry into this home
Mm-hmm.
that had a dog in it.
Mm-hmm.
And when the officers breached the home and breached the property, they didn't find the dog at all. The dog was cowering somewhere, and he basically said that all you saw was a pile of feces in the middle of the floor. And that was his reasoning for not getting or not considering having a dog for protection purposes for this particular person that was considering getting a dog.
Mm-hmm.
I think that response was irresponsible and ignorant, to be honest with you. First of all, let me just backtrack a little bit so that people understand where I'm coming from. You have to understand what's involved in a dynamic entry where you have law enforcement coming into a house.
Exactly.
There's flashbangs, there's lights, there's guys hollering and
thing.
bangs,
With their masks on sometimes.
Exactly.
Their helmets.
I think that was a reasonable response for an average dog.
Yeah.
In those circumstances.
Yeah.
And they're coming in doors, windows, and I mean, come on.
Give a dog a break.
That wasn't enough. So, like I said, you need to speak to people that are knowledgeable in those circumstances. I like to, when it comes to personal protection, meaning self-defense,
Mm-hmm.
I love to talk with and interact with individuals that are that work in the scene of being a bouncer.
Mm.
I'm not talking about all of them, because some of them half of them are thugs. they're no more professional than
yeah.
Let me just I'm not talking about those guys.
Wise.
I'm talking about individuals that are professionals that have been doing this at high-end establishments, and they come at a premium price.
Mm-hmm.
They know physical confrontations, and not that they know it because they look for opportunities to put their hands on people. No, that's not the point at all. These guys know that it's not in their benefit to get physical with anybody in their client's establishment. So they have a wide range of skill sets to avoid conflicts in the first place. But when a conflict does occur, they expeditiously, effectively, and forcefully deal with it as discreetly as possible. You don't know what happened.
Yeah.
And so these are the guys and ladies, by the way, that know physical confrontation, that know how to deal with confrontations and deal. And these individuals, many of them do share on YouTube and write books and what have you. And some of them you may have the opportunity to get to know or to seek out. Some do classes, some don't. But these individuals, in my opinion, are great instructors in the field of knowing how best to protect yourself in the mean streets of our cities and suburbs and rural areas.
Well, they have the experience, first of all, they can see it coming.
You got it.
They know how to, for the most part, quell a situation, squelch a situation before it gets to that point.
Yes, they have the escalation or diffusion skills.
Right.
And they're always, when it calls for it, they're always on. Very, very little gets past them. Because they want to be, they need to be on top of things. And so they have a wide range of skill sets. Another thing is individuals that are in the military. Yes, people that are trained military professionals can be a source of knowledge, but understand something. It is the same thing with using another example, Secret Service officers, in terms of learning to know how to protect people. When I was doing executive protection, one of my instructors was a former Secret Service officer, and he had been part of details to protect VIPs. And he was training us who were independent contractors on how to do the job. One of the first things he said, understand something. I'm not going to train you the way we train at the Secret Service, because we train with the idea that there are resources available to us that are not anywhere near available to you. You're going to have to learn how to operate independent of those resources that we depend upon to get the job done. So it's going to take a different type of mindset. And I tell you, I appreciate this man, because it was him giving me a clear understanding of what I can and cannot do, what I'm going to be faced with, and how to adapt to situations without having those type of resources. That it opened me up so that during the instruction, I was like a sponge, and I felt so confident and competent. It was like he just gave me a drug that just opened my eyes.
Yeah.
And that's the type of people you need to be mentored by. You need to be tapped into. You need to follow. You need to learn from.
I'll tell you, as you're talking about that and telling us these stories, I'm thinking about situations that I don't know if I feel so comfortable in anymore, you know, like the whole crowd idea, you know, concerts or big festivals or things like that. I'm thinking we should really do, maybe we could have a discussion one night about, or I know it's part of your trainings, but you know, what kinds of things should we be looking around for? How to be aware in those situations? Because I know for myself, like I said, I've said this before, that since, you know, I started training with you, I'm definitely more aware. And I'm definitely looking at people, I'm looking at crowds but I just feel like these days you just never know what kind of crazies are in the crowd. And
Absolutely.
I definitely, I feel like, you know, so many people, especially if you are, well, I don't know. It doesn't, I guess it doesn't matter. You know, you're just, you know, you're going someplace to have a good time and you're not, you know, if you've been there before, you've been to different festivals before, you never had a bad experience, or, you know, the occasional fight breaks out or whatever. But these days, I just, you know, I would love to be able to do more on, you know, what are we looking for? What kinds of clues? How do we get away from certain situations? What do we do? What do we do if we have kids? What do we do if we have an older adult, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yes, yes, and
And I know we can't be prepared for every single thing.
no, no,
I
you can't.
really,
But you'll be surprised how just basic information can save your life
mhm,
or save the lives of people that are with you in a crowded environment. And it really just begins with, first and foremost, for some people, that need to learn how to read a crowd. Many times people are sucked up into events or become victims or residuals or
mm,
residuals or what we call casualties that were not unintended casualties involved in certain situations, all because of their proximity.
mm,
Many of us, and I see it all the time, it's like when I hear a sense of commotion that's not normal.
mhm.
Some people respond differently.
Mhm.
There are some people that are just straight up nosy.
I was just gonna say, some of them are like, let's go see
Uh,
who it is.
they want to just go, they'll go toward the
Yeah,
commotion.
not me.
Yeah, me
Not me.
either.
Not
And
me.
then there are individuals that are in between. They'll just freeze. We try to figure out what's going on, or what's going on. Sometimes they're freezing to figure out what's going on, but sometimes they're freezing because they don't know what to do.
Mhm.
And then there's individuals that, because there's a commotion and they don't see what's going on, they don't know what's going on, they automatically gather up their kids, gather up grandpa, grandma, turn a wheelchair around, and they're going opposite direction. I don't know what's going on, don't need to know, we're out of here. And I think that basically those basic three groups of people
Yeah.
exist. And but if you don't know how to read a crowd,
Mhm.
not only know how to read the crowd, but also respond accordingly to what you read it correctly, and recognize when there's danger or the potential for danger, and then move out of there. And it's also great that when you've decided to go in the opposite direction to where you think something is going on, that you are familiar with that particular route, that you can get back to your vehicle or to a place where it's safe.
Mhm. I think that's, I'm thinking of kids too, they typically want to know what's going on, depending
Yeah,
on the kind of kid, but, hey,
yeah,
let's go see, there's a big fight going
yeah,
on,
yeah.
and then,
It used to boggle my mind. I used to be a campus security officer for Plainfield High School in Plainfield, New Jersey. And there was a phenomena that would always occur that I would just scratch my head about.
mm,
Whenever there was gunfire, and often there was
mhm,
around the school and
mhm.
in the area, the students would run towards the gunfire to see who was shooting and who got shot.
Mhm. Ugh. Well, and we
Where
saw
do you get
that,
that from?
you and I saw that kind of a, like a mob mentality, when we did our work on the
Oh,
streets,
yes,
in a
yes,
particular street where we would be
yes,
doing ministry, and
yeah.
uh the like ants, like,
Yes. You wonder where everybody came from.
I mean, and how fast they got there.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. Exactly.
So,
And in those situations, many times, myself and you and some of the uh, other brothers and sisters that belong to the ministry or to the programs would run toward the commotion because some of our kids will be involved before, get out of here, and diffuse it. But
yeah, some of us were throwing our bodies in between,
exactly,
ducking,
exactly,
so we
exactly.
didn't get knocked out ourselves.
Yes, but there was a reason for our presence.
Oh, those were the days. Oh, I couldn't do it now.
But you have to read the crowd. You have to know, and it really is basic. It's not, you know, I just don't want to have people feel intimidated that they have to learn certain things for years and before
Mhm.
they become good enough to feel comfortable to go outside. And that's not true. Just basic stuff, basic stuff.
Yeah.
Um, learning how to avoid crowds. There are people in various countries, and sometimes even in certain parts of the United States. I don't even want to make this a foreign thing because it's not necessarily so, but
Mhm.
there are certain environments where it's dangerous to go out on the street at certain times of the day or certain times of the night.
Mhm.
And knowing and understanding the environment is to know what times of the day are safer.
Right.
Simple as that. What times of the day are safer? And why is it safer? What are the threats? First of all, what are the threats? What are the conditions that pose a threat to me physically? I need to evaluate all of that. I need to see and understand all of that.
Yeah.
Not a sense of false security. Here's another group that has a sense of false security. I grew up in this neighborhood.
Mhm.
I'll be all right. Well, a lot of people are dead that grew up in that neighborhood.
Yeah.
It's not enough.
Yeah.
That's false bravado.
Yeah. And I mean, again, I had experience with that, in a neighborhood that I grew up in and was there in my most of my adult life. And things changed.
Things change. Exactly.
And I
Things
think,
change.
especially some of the older people that, you can hardly fathom that something like this is going on these days, and they're, until it happens,
Yes, exactly.
they're, oh, this is a safe neighborhood.
Yes,
Well,
yes.
there was, 10 murders this year. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. exactly.
But yeah, lots to think about, but I like the fact that, what you said about you don't want to like burden people to think that there's so much that they have to know to, and be overwhelmed with it, that it's just basic things.
Just
And
basic.
yeah, so I mean, is there anything else that you want? And in the beginning, you talked about mindset. Again, mindset is so important with everything that with every area that we're going to talk about, right? I mean,
Right,
in every area of life.
right, right. I want to share another experience that's on my heart to share, and I
Okay.
think I'm praying that the story helps with some people in terms of getting their mindset, because I'm sharing my heart and it's embarrassing and I don't want to have it wasted.
Don't
Nobody's
forget,
going to
it
take
will
it.
never be erased. This is being recorded. It's out there for the world forever.
I'm going to pull this
Careful.
one from my years, my tenure at Plainfield High School as a campus security officer. There was this young lady who, well, let me start with this first of all. The school policy at that particular time was that if you came to school late, you were not permitted to go to your locker. You were to report directly to your class for attendance. And so basically, if students came in, they head to their locker, we would tell them, go to class, the deal, go to class and be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
There was a young lady who came late and she went to her locker, even though she heard me say, young lady, please don't go to your locker. I not only said young lady, but I realized who it was. I called her by name. And although I have known her or known about her for years, I felt pretty much comfortable, even with the fact that through those years, it was always friction. You see, this young lady was a student in my Sunday school class years ago when she was little. And it's not like she didn't remember me. She remembered me and she knew me. And she was she was a handful in Sunday school class, but dealt with her every day, every Sunday. And it was always rebellion, always conflict, always resistance. But that was my calling, so I went with it. Now I'm seeing her as a teenager in school. And so I'm telling her, why are you going to your locker? Come on, you got to go. I'm going to my locker. I said, no, you're not. Let's go. Come on. She's busy trying to open her locker. So she eventually gets the locker open and I shut it. She turns around and clocks me right in the eye. Yes.
I said I'm not. I said I'm going to my.
Oh, yes, yes. Now, first and foremost, I had a false sense of security.
Oh.
That's first and foremost. I thought that I did not have to put up my guard for this young lady because she knows better.
He knows you.
Than knows me. Yes, there's a degree of respect there, even though she give me problems, but there was a degree of respect, never physical. Oh, false sense of security. Thank God I was not injured at that particular time. I was wearing rigid hard contact lenses, and any pressure on the eye can cause serious injury.
Right.
Catastrophic injury, as a matter of fact, because they're hard plastic lenses. And you hit. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And it was after that incident I started wearing safety glasses, by the way. But Needless to say, I learned a lesson, but I think she learned a lesson too.
It hit her back.
Oh, all I can say is, yeah, she ended up in a compromising position. I had to handcuff her. She was arrested, um, taken to juvenile detention, the whole 9 yards for assault.
But I have one question.
Yes.
Did you cry?
Thank God
Did you
it
cry?
didn't. Thank God I even though I got sucker punched, I was able to react quickly enough that the blow wasn't full blow. I
Yeah,
backed up and turned away
your,
enough that it didn't hurt
your
as much
experience. That's
and
where
no
your
injury.
experience came in.
Or that was like, oh my God, oh my God.
But not like, what was that?
Yeah, because there's a period of, it's not like that one thing one thing that did not happen to me is the feeling like she did not just hit me. I saw it coming. I said, she's hitting me. She's hitting me.
Did you see his slow motion?
No, she didn't. Like people freeze and they're like in this state of unbelief.
Yeah,
Like this is not happening.
yeah.
No, I wasn't there.
You
I was
knew.
like, you fool, get out of the way.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that.
So again, I wanted to share, it happens to the best of us,
Mhm.
but it doesn't need to happen. It doesn't need to happen. We need to understand the hazards and the consequences of not taking certain things seriously or making assumptions about certain things. I know better. I know this girl was hostile. I should have automatically assumed that she's no longer a little kid being towered over by a 200 and some odd pound man.
Yeah.
She was now a hormonally disturbed adolescent that's ready to rumble.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's a really good example. Well, let's let's wrap it up unless you've got more. What do you want to say in conclusion? Anything?
Well, in conclusion, let's go back. Let's assess what are the probable potential threats. Let's look at it realistically and come up with realistic strategies on how to deal with it or deal with them. One at a time. Don't look at, just do one particular threat at a time. Have a plan A, B, C, and D. Let's go back to PACE planning. And I believe I mentioned that in one of our videos.
Yes, go back and watch that.
Primary response, an alternate response, a contingency response, and an emergency Hail Mary response. And test the responses and see if they work. Whatever plan you come up with is not valid unless you're able to rehearse it to see if it works. Other than that, it's not a valid plan. I have many plans that are not valid because I haven't had the opportunity to test them. So that's okay. Just make up your mind to put on a to-do list of things to get done,
right,
to complete my emergency preparedness, readiness, and response plan. And get somebody else's viewpoint as to whether your methods make sense for you, not for them, but for you and your circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't care what somebody says they do. This is what I do with this and that and what have you. If it doesn't fit my dynamic, my family dynamic, my financial situation, my location where I live,
Mm-hmm.
type of home I'm in, and so on and so forth, then it's probably not going to work for me the same way it may work for you.
Right.
I have to see what fits for me. So get an unbiased opinion from somebody that knows the issues. Okay, don't assume they know. Have some evidence that they know.
Mm. Yeah, it's important.
Work your plan.
Right. All right. Well, once again, you have given us plenty to think about and action steps to really to think about, those different areas where we may, well, I'm sure we have false sense of security. So thank you, Thurston. Appreciate you so much for sharing all the knowledge that you have and your wisdom. Really do appreciate that.
What little I have, still learning.
Yeah, well, a lot more than I have. But anyway, yeah, so thanks again. So everybody, don't forget to like and share and subscribe. Go back and watch some of the other, we're getting a nice playlist, a nice library of information for you to go back and watch those videos, and do the same with those, like, subscribe, and share, and bring some more people along. We are all in this together. Again, we're trying to build a community, a network of people. And so, we're not keeping this to ourselves, and we need you to help us to spread the word and to share. So, all right. So that's it for tonight. And we will hopefully prayerfully see you next time. And keep on learning, keep on prepping, keep on praying, whatever you do. All right. So hang in there. There is hope. Don't ever give up. And thank you once again. All right. Good night.
Good night, everybody.